All right, and welcome to another edition of the Get With It podcast. Today I have Patricia Bradley. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I feel like that was I felt confident going into that last name. Sometimes names do not work, especially last names. So Patricia is joining us from New Jersey, correct?
New Jersey. Mm-hmm.
And we were just chatting. Ironically enough, you're heading out to a holiday party, a Christmas party, and it's on the beach. Oh my God, what's the weather like? Is it out on the beach?
No, it's at a restaurant that looks at the right in Seabright, a very nice Italian restaurant. BYOB, but incredible food. You can't get in there, but it's right on the beach in Seabright. So you're looking at the water, and actually it's beautiful. It's like in the 50s here today. So it's really nice, not cold.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
I snuck out, no jacket, get my to get work out of the house most of the time, or I travel. And it's beautiful outside today, just beautiful. Like April weather, not December weather.
Not December weather. So no snow on the ground yet.
Not even close. Although I love a good snowstorm.
Okay.
I do. I love the hush. So like if you grew up in New York City when it would snow, you'd get that hush over the city, and that hustle and bustle slows down, and it's just quiet, and it's just something serene and peaceful about it that I really just enjoy, that feeling that you get from a good snowstorm. Now, the day after, it's not pretty snow anymore, but the day of, it's beautiful.
I'm pretty sure our friends in Buffalo probably didn't think it was so great.
Yeah, that was pretty wild to watch. They know that they live there. This is not new for them. They've had lake effects forever. So
yeah, it should not be new to them. So no. Yes. So all right. Well, on to that. We were sidetracked waiting. So let's start off where you kind of started your whole life.
Oh, my life is a little crazy. I am one of those kids that I say has grit and spunk. So I grew up in New York City in the boroughs, staring at, downtown Manhattan most of my life. I'm what I call like a borough brat from the boroughs of New York City, grew up in the boroughs. My first job was on Wall Street, working for one of the finance firms. I realized very quickly I did not have the right family pedigree as a woman back then in the day to make it on Wall Street without the right family connections. My dad did not work in Wall Street. In fact, I'm actually the only person in my family who went to college. So I'm the first person and the only person. So obviously I didn't have deep connections of previous people that worked on Wall Street. And I was an economics major. I wanted to be an analyst. I went to work there and then realized that wasn't going to work. They kept sending me for coffee. So I decided I was going to have to do something different. And through my spunk, I got into UPS, United Parcel Service, their management training program. The only caveat was you had to drive a truck in Manhattan as part of that. So you had to be willing to do that. So I went to UPS, went through their training program, wound up getting into their engineering program. So wound up in industrial engineering at UPS, started their logistics entities as one of the first employees working in logistics within New York City. Got to redesign warehouses as part of that, and workflows, and optimize manufacturing and how things were flowed through different businesses. And so it was like a consulting business within their organization. So I did things like Coach bags. I did a company called Allied Brass. I did a catalog company and some others, and help them optimize their business. From there, I wound up, because I didn't want to work in warehouses anymore in the middle of the night, I wound up in healthcare, going into pharmaceuticals. But while I was in graduate school, I got the bug for startups and tech, because they were, let's be honest, they're the only ones that were willing to give me a flexible schedule when I needed it to take some classes that I needed to get my MBA. So I wound up working many, many years ago for a health tech company where they used AI for cancer detection. So neural nets back in the day before it became fashionable, did that and really loved it. Watched the company go public, and then eventually sold, sold. And then I went back into a more formalized, more traditional healthcare in pharma for many years, working for Novo Nordisk as part of leadership within the US. And then when there was changes within that organization, I wound up going back into startups and stepped my foot back into health tech and health tech startups and digital health, and did a stint at Huma, which is a digital healthcare company based out of London. Really enjoyed that, have stayed on as an advisor for them. And then really at this time last year, got into, was in discussions at MindMaze to head up global commercial activities for them. And I am the chief global commercial officer for MindMaze, which is a digital neurotherapeutics company, really focusing on neuro recovery and restoration. So that's what we do.
Okay. We got to go back. I got lots of questions.
Absolutely.
So you just like kind of threw out, but didn't give the details. Did you really have to drive a UPS truck through Manhattan?
A big one. Yep.
A big
P1000.
one?
A big one. The P1000 had double wheels in the back. It was stick shift. And yep, I had to drive that, park it, back it up into locations in my cute little brown uniform. In fact, I remember my first week at UPS, they thought they were funny. They made me put on my brown uniform, drive a truck, and deliver it to the former company on Wall Street that I worked at, and made me deliver a package to that office. Talk about being hazed. It was pretty funny. So, it's part of, getting initiated into different things. But yes, I drove the package car. And everybody at the time, that was part of the commitment, is you had to learn that business from the ground up. You had to load the trucks, you had to learn the sort, you had to back them up to the belt, you had to move things around. Every Christmas for your entire time there, you would get on package cars and deliver until all hours. How do you think they come up with all these extra people to deliver those holiday packages we order online all the time?
Did you take
It's all
anybody out?
management people. What?
Did you take anybody out?
No, but I took out a few mirrors along the way. I did. And listen, that was sport. If you did not turn your mirrors in on these public streets, they are good to be taken out by my truck coming down. I didn't,
Gotcha.
knock on wood, I didn't hit anybody. I didn't hit a car, but I definitely took out some mirrors of trucks that did not turn them in, and that's their fault, not mine.
I mean, that's the rules, right?
Those are the rules of the road.
Yes.
But I can drive. I'm a mean driver in New York City.
Oh my gosh, that would give me anxiety.
Don't worry, I can take you around. I'll tell you, just close your eyes and don't look.
Oof. Wow. Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
So yes, I did. It was a fun adventure. And what a great workout. Those packages could be 70 pounds each. You were working out.
You were. That's
were.
why UPS drivers look so good in their uniforms.
I could say that now. I couldn't say that. Yes, it was. I will tell you, it was one of the, outside of when I was playing college sports, I was in great shape during that time.
During your UPS time. Okay, so then you went to, you said AI.
So I did a small stint in pharma, and then wound up I went back into graduate school and actually worked in AI for cancer detection. I worked for a company called Neuromedical Systems that use neural nets and other artificial intelligence to identify abnormal cells, and actually was part of the pap smear revolution. We were part of the changes that you got to see in women's healthcare. So I had kind of come out of women's healthcare initially, and I got very intrigued by, if you look at cancer, it's all about early detection, early intervention. And I thought it was really cutting edge at the time to use neural nets. And now we're seeing it more and more. When I go to conferences, I see this, I'm like, oh my goodness, that I was in that 20 years ago. And it was just prior to clouds and the portability of information that really kind of got in the way of that technology early on. The technology was great. You basically teach a neural net how to identify abnormal cells, and it does a much better job at kind of checks and balances on pap smears. And pap smears have changed dramatically. And that's where it started, but it can be used for any specimen where you can identify cells.
Wow.
It came out of NASA. It was actually technology used in satellites for missile detection that they think you can teach it to do anything you want it to do. And I'm seeing it now, like I said, at shows where you're seeing it applied in other areas, and it's really fun to see it in action.
Wow. Okay. That's really cool. So 20 years ago, that was way ahead of its time.
It really was. And I think that's when you get the bug to get into these things, because technology, having been in industrial engineering, you're always thinking about how to scale up and grow, and technology is a perfect platform for that. So I was even part of the teams that did the dyad training. This was when UPS went to computers to capture signatures and give kind of instant feedback about, packages were delivered and signed for.
Oh, like the
Technology,
little, when you had to
yeah, I
sign the
actually
little
was
pad.
part of the team that did all of that work in the US
Oh, wow.
for them when I was at UPS within engineering. So there is just, I mean, that's a perfect play for technology, where it can either be a great checks and balances to quality check things. It can help you scale up. I think people always thought it would replace people, but the truth is it just allows you to be a little bit more specialized and more strategic in what you do. And like for cancer detection, it doesn't take out human intervention to look at the final results. It's just giving you a better view of what to look at. And that's what that technology did. It was saying, hey, you looked at the specimen. These are the worst looking cells in this particular sample. Take a second look and make sure you didn't miss something, because sometimes cancer is not spread across the entire picture. You might miss something. And if you can get it early, that's what it was all about. And I just felt that was so compelling to be part of. And it was really a great experience. But we went through the whole IPO process, FDA approval and IPO process. So you really learn a lot about how to bring things to market, how to leverage technologies, how to showcase them. But then you also learn limitations, because at the time, the portability of those images, it's not like they could just fly across like they do now. And now you could just, you could do it and have it just pop up on a screen somewhere, because technology has moved so fast.
Right.
It makes it much easier to do that.
Right. That is true. But you probably saved people's lives.
I do believe that we did. Yes. And that really, that's kind of how I wound up in the type of healthcare and health tech that I'm in, is because it's always personal, right? It really is always personal. I mean, where I am now, we're in neurotechnologies, rehab, neuro restoration. And I really got into this. What made me receptive to do this was my dad was in rehab at the time.
And this is the brain, right?
Yeah, so what we work on in our first therapeutic area that we're going into is rehab, right? Related to neurological conditions like stroke.
Okay.
And there's no drugs, right? You have a stroke, there's no drugs. But post-event, there's a window of what they call hyperplasticity, right? Your brain is really desperately trying to find a new way to rewire itself. And that is where technology can play a significant role of making rehab much more accessible, making it high dose, high intensity in a way that we could never do or never be able to afford to do without technology. That's not to say that therapists do an amazing job, but there's not enough of them. And how do you do this constantly with a patient, right? You can't. Now, you get in your car, you drive to a rehab center, you're there for an hour, then you go home. It's like going to the gym. Or even if you're in a hospital, you're going out to do it 2 times a day with somebody. So why can't you actually bring it to them and have them do that at home, where they can do much more rehab, and we put it in a gamified format, and we protocolize their care so that it actually works on the parts of their body where they have a deficit, where they need to improve. It's not teaching them how to use their good hand. You're helping them use the hand that needs to be improved and trying to get their function back to normal. And we know that high doses of this work and they help people. So why not try to do that as much as you can and utilize technology? And that's what we do now. And then we can measure it and monitor it. And the computers don't lie. There's no bias in them. So they're doing like a numerical assessment of your range of motion, and they know when you're cheating. They also can catch you because they map out your whole body. Like, when you're using the wrong part of your body to do something. And then you can change the therapy so that they can't cheat anymore. So you're really working on it to get them to work what they really need to work to get the best recovery possible. And when you sit there, my situation, I was watching my dad. He was in a rehab center, and there full time for a period of time. He had a hospital. He had surgery and then needed to stay there. And you're thinking he spent most of his time watching reruns of old Western movies on his TV, where he could have been doing some kind of fun activity that actually helped him keep all of his movements going, because it is use it or lose it.
So it's on a computer?
So this is actually we're hardware and software in combination. So we are a full kind of system with a camera that's watching you, and then you're playing games on a computer, and at the same time the camera's watching you, tracking your movements. And then we have additional hardware that you can use so that it can detect the smallest hand movement if your hand is not functioning well, but you can detect it, and it will create beautiful visuals on a screen that you can play with, and different games that you can play. We also have sensors that we can place on you to measure movement when you're not playing the games. And then if you can't move at all, we have electrical stimulation devices that can help you open up where you can't move on your own. So we're a combination of software and hardware and a protocolized therapy to treat or restore brain function. So we can be used in stroke. We're also doing clinical trials for traumatic brain injury, for other movements disorders such as MS and Parkinson's disease, and even things like Alzheimer's. So we'll play in all those areas. Behavioral therapies, which are these movement therapies, really have benefits in so many places. And like in stroke, there's no other option. There's no drug to help you recover better. There's nothing else. So it's a perfect place where technology really can bring something that is needed into a marketplace where there's nothing. So that's the first area, stroke, and then we'll continue on with other therapeutic areas that we work in.
So do you work like with hospitals on this, or rehab centers? Like, I'm assuming you've tested this on people?
We do. We do, and we work with all of it. So it can start right in the hospital post an event, and then we have situations there. So, for example, at Johns Hopkins or Mount Sinai, there's fully submersive rooms where patients can actually get like a full surround sound experience, and it's a very open forum, like open play. And we have a game that's called MindPod. Well, we have a system that's called MindPod, where they are basically a dolphin, and then dolphin is catching prey and eating fish. And it has games with jellyfish, and you have to avoid the shark that's going to try to eat you, and all these kind of fun things. So it's just fun, but it makes you move. So we start early in the hospital. So we're looking at early intervention, and then we step down with them all the way home. So we will go into what you call step down care, which is independent rehab hospitals, and we'll be there. And then we can even get into outpatient, where they come back in for it, and we can even be a system in their home, just like kids have all kinds of gaming systems in the home, and we can be the same thing, but it's much more technical than that. It's not like a Wii where you're just going to be playing tennis or something. It's using high-tech cameras, and it's tracking you. And then there is very protocolized games that you're playing, but it is fun and it's addicting. So it gets you to do more, and it's engaging. And there are hundreds of combinations of uses that you can do. And, there's no shortage in finding game developers out there. So we'll keep adding more and more to the portfolio.
That is true. Lots of gamers out there. So how is this just locally in your area? Like, say, like, I don't know, somebody in Ohio here,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a stroke. Is this care available, or it's not a program, right? How would you define it, I guess?
That we are we're already in the market active. So we've actually,
Okay.
so we're already FDA approved, as you would say, and there's a couple of systems, and all of it has been FDA approved for neurological conditions. So if somebody wanted it, like for example, there are facilities like Mount Sinai that has it, and Johns Hopkins and others. But actually, even today, we have a press release. We just signed a contract with Vibra, which is an independent rehab hospital chain, and they have locations from coast to coast, and we'll slowly be rolling out within their facilities to have this available through them. But even so, then we can refer people back to one of these academic centers then who do set up remote programs for patients in different places, so that if somebody really wanted it, we could connect them to the people at Mount Sinai who could get them a system at their home, and then they would be monitoring their care and covering making sure that they're following the right protocols and making the medical adjustments that need to be made. So we work with David Petrino at Mount Sinai and his laboratory there. And then of course, there's a whole group at Johns Hopkins too, that we work with that have these systems there that do it. But then it's not just here. We are also in the UK. We are in Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, Switzerland. We're even in India, and it's slowly spreading across the globe.
Oh, so global.
Mm-hmm. Full global.
Okay. So how does, I don't want that, how that work is not, so do you see a difference of cultures between like people here in the United States and overseas on how quickly they respond, how quickly they are? Other cultures seem to have better, I don't know, like healthcare ways of doing things sometimes. And you look at like the Chinese culture, and they have herbs and acupuncture and all of that. Can you tell if it, the percentage of rate faster of somebody healing in a different culture? Or
I don't think you see differences in people and recovery from it. I do think you see difference in adoption in certain areas. So like, if you look at it, often the military is very interested in this because of injuries incurred there. So they like many things, the militaries in many different countries are very interested in it, in technologies, because they've always been kind of faster adopters of technology in general. So we do see that, but I think most people have the same issue of lack of healthcare providers and lack of therapists to meet the need and demand that you have. So the need for the technology is there globally. We see that across the board. How they do it depends upon how their healthcare system is set up from reimbursement. And that's what's lagging behind right now, is getting reimbursement involved in this process. So you have to do, we're doing full-on trials, just like you do for a drug on this. And then you have to do health economics outcomes research, because it's common sense, right, that this works. But they still want the data on it. So we are doing that. We know that we do know from what we see in published literature that we do way more, that what we see in our patients is a significant increase in the number of movements from what you traditionally see in therapy. But we still have to do all of that work. We do have some preliminary results of improvement in outcomes, and we've done many clinical trials. And even though it's common sense on half of this, it just takes time to get the ecosystem to follow along, because, most cultures are, I don't want to pay for anything. And how do these technologies come out? Just like I went back to pap smears when I started in that, the first 3 or 4 years of that being in the marketplace, if not longer, was you had to pay for it. You had to pay a certain amount of money to have these new high-tech, like ThinPrep. You had to pay money to get one of those 20 years ago. You had to pay out of pocket. And the same thing can happen here, is that you have to, it's how do you get into the ecosystem and get the system to actually pay for these things so that it's available to you. And that's
like your insurance.
Yeah, that takes time.
Gotcha. Will it ever be caught up?
I have to think so.
You think so?
I do think so. I mean, there is there's such a need for some of these things, and they fill a gap that exists. And the burden of care is significant. I mean, realize that people don't, it's not like patients are still there. They just become incapacitated and they don't move. The cost to take care of them far outweighs the cost of getting a gamified therapy in their home. I mean, there's just no comparison when you look at the economics. So I do think it will catch up. I do think it will catch up. If it follows suit to other things, it will probably be restricted to certain therapeutic areas at first until it becomes more widespread. But I do believe some of these things will take off. They'll just take a little bit of time, awareness, and some exposure to actually patient data, and then it will go from there. But I would have done this for my father passed away in a rehab hospital. There was no reason for him to pass away. Absolutely no reason. But if you don't get moving, there are other things to happen to patients that don't move. You wind up with pneumonia, and he wound up in that vicious cycle.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So you mentioned the military.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thought that came to my mind was PST, right? Post, yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
PTS, PTS.
PTSD.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it does any kind of, we haven't been tested in that, but these type of behavioral therapies do work. In general, and that you've seen that as almost like a side effect of stress relief and anxiety and other things that you can look. There's a lot of literature on these type of therapies and it's exercise, right? What exercise does in general for your sense of well-being. And these patients, while that's not really the primary indication of it, there are benefits in some of those areas. So for us, we know that, I mean, with the military, obviously they can, there's a lot of issues of traumatic brain injury and concussions and things like that from things that go on in the field. And there's great benefits. There's so many benefits. I mean, the best thing to ward off Alzheimer's is exercise. It's the only reason I get up in the morning, right? Sometimes to exercise. You just got to get moving, you just got to get moving, and these things help. So there's so many benefits to physical movement. I mean, there is without a doubt a mind-body connection, no matter what. And we all know that it always makes you feel better. And that's a what I call a really nice side effect of these things.
I did not know that. Yeah, I get up in the mornings for my coffee.
I do too. I will say sometimes I get up, I have my coffee, then I'm part of that, Peloton hydro community.
Oh boy.
I know. I have one and then I got the other because I just needed something else. I got bored on one and I needed to get the other. But I do think I always feel better the days that I get up and do that. And I don't claim that I do a lot. I do maybe 20 minutes. That's it. I mean, that's about all you're getting out of me in the morning. A quick 20 minutes and then the coffee first, 20 minutes, and then get ready for work.
There you go.
But my only motivation to do that is because I read all the studies on Alzheimer's and kind of mitigating risk factors and stuff like that.
Wow. All right. Everybody listening, that should have been like a big note right there. So, what is like your position in MindMaze? Am I saying it correctly?
Yep, it's MindMaze. So I am the Global Chief Commercial Officer. So underneath me is all of sales, marketing, market access, commercial planning, KOL development, market shaping, as you call it. So everything that's touching a patient, a customer, and our footprint or our physical presence in the marketplace is kind of me. And then, of course, you have teams like finance and clinical development, which does our studies, and those areas. So, but I am all the salespeople, the marketing people, business development, and all of that. So I'm the person who's probably doing the activity you might see on LinkedIn if you're in an industry, and places like that. But in addition, we do other non-personal selling and personal selling. So we
Oh,
have a
okay.
team of people that go out into these accounts, that go to hospitals, that go to independent rehab hospitals, that go to payers. So we do have physical people out there who are out there having those conversations.
So this isn't a startup though, right? Or is it a startup?
It is. It's a what you call post-Series C startup company. And we just had our series, we just had our last fundraise about a year ago. So we just finished that about a year ago. So now that's why you're seeing more and more, I'm saying more and more of these activities, because we're in that last phase of truly trying to scale up.
Gotcha. So how many employees or people work in MindMaze?
There is just under 200 people for the company overall, and that's globally.
That's globally. Okay.
That's globally. We're about 20, we're about 20 or so people in the US currently, and we're posting positions daily because we are in that scale up and hiring. We're hiring a lot of therapists because we do think that they're critical, teaching, understanding the systems, helping customers to get on board with it. So they help us with usage, utilization, training, education in the marketplace. Then we have a few BD people, we have a few market access, payer specialists within the company. So we have marketing team and the rest. So we're slowly scaling up and hiring.
Gotcha. And the developers.
And then we have, of course, well, that's the majority are well, the computer engineers, programmers, gamers, all of that. I would say that makes up a big bulk of our employees.
Gotcha. Okay. Got some women in there?
Well, naturally, I am a woman, and so I tend to be not always. I can't say that I orchestrate it by design, but we are heavily dominant. We've got a lot of females.
All
We are
right.
there. I am actually, I'm a big supporter of women in industry, both in tech and in healthcare. And actually, and I'm going out to Rise next week, which is a conference for women executives and women supporting women and other things. So I'm a big believer in that. And I've been a mentor in that area for a long time, having been on the board for HBA, which is Health Business Women's Association. I've been a mentor for many women, and I like doing that for forever. I think women have to help women, and we miss the boat in so many places. We don't play the game the same that as our male colleagues do, and we've got to change how we play the game. We don't do reciprocity. We don't share information. We don't share salaries. We don't do a good job of boasting about our friends who have achieved great things. Yet guys do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And I'm like, we just need to be more open and more transparent.
I agree. I love that. So, okay, when you're not really busy, take out the 20 minutes on the Peloton. What do you do for fun? I always throw this question out.
What do I do for fun? So I do a lot of evening meetings with this week I was at a holiday VC venture capital Christmas meeting of a lot of women in healthcare. It's a fund that actually works trying to support and fund women female healthcare technologies. So I was at that supporting them, meeting many other women executives in healthcare and tech. And that's fun because I know these people for years, so they've actually become like friends. So I will spend time with them. I love to be down the shore, hanging out at the beach and doing that. I like to fish. I actually like fishing and sports and some stuff like that.
What kind of fishing?
Deep sea fishing, like
Okay.
tuna fishing, striped bass, fluke, flounder, and then what I call like the junk fish of the puffer fish, and some fun things that you can take kids out for that can be just fun to catch in the bay. Yes, I bait my own hooks and I will do all that muck.
Ew.
It's kind of fun.
So
chum.
you get on a boat, a charter, and go out and fish.
No, well, we had a boat, so I would do it. We would go out on our own. We would go boating on. We had a boat that we would fish on. Yeah.
Did you see sharks?
Yes, yes, I have seen sharks.
You have seen sharks.
I was part of a boat that caught 6.5 foot mako, and actually I've gone shark fishing off the coast of New Jersey.
No, really?
Yeah, and we caught a shark.
Did you watch
Um,
Jaws before you did it?
Oh, that was way many years before that, but it really does. I will tell you, it's weird because it did circle the boat. This silly shark took 4 lines. And it jumped out of the water at one point that we're like, what is this now? Is it what we couldn't tell what we caught then because it jumped out of the water. I don't think any of us realized a mako would jump like 6 feet out of the water, but we did, we caught it. And we actually brought it back and then turned it into mako steaks and the rest. And we all,
Oh, you eat it.
yes, you must catch. If you're not going to do catch and release, you must be eating what you catch. No, I would say a lot of what we do is catch and release because it's just fun, and you only take what you're going to eat. You never take something that you're not going to eat.
Gotcha. So you've had shark.
Yes, I have. It's very good.
It is. Wow.
It is. It is very good. So yes, I've had shark, I've had striped bass, I've even bluefish. They're not the best to eat, but they're really fun to catch. We used to catch like baby blue snappers and stuff. You know, that's a lot of fun for catch and release. Let the kids catch them because they put up a little bit of a fight, but they're not too big to pull a kid into the water. So we did a lot of that. Puffer fish are fun, and then you cook them. But
you didn't lose any kids though, right? No child was harmed.
My son is in college, so he has survived well, and he's in school now. So
okay, no tragedies.
Many pictures with the big catch that's only like 6 inches long. Of course, you know there are rules and standards you follow for measurements, and they drift a little bit from year to year. But yep, only catch what you're going to eat, and if you're not, then you've got to put that back and let it grow for another year. So let it keep going.
Good philosophy. Good philosophy. Okay, well that's fun.
It is. So I do that, and then of course just spending time with friends at the beach, which given where I live, it's close by.
That's
I don't live on the beach. I wish I did, but I can get there in 20 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, not bad. Not bad.
But so you're not, are you Seaside Heights? No,
I live in what they call Monmouth County of New Jersey, which is the top end of the shore. And like where I said in our previous discussion, the whales that go by and how clean the water is, Seabright is pretty close by. And Seabright is kind of the beginning of the shore. You can see a little bit of New York City, but it is on the Atlantic and not on the bay. And then it just keeps going from there. But it's wonderful watching how much the water's cleaned up around here, and watch dolphins, porpoises, of course, and the whales go by now, which is nice. So yeah, of course, that might come with an alcoholic beverage as I'm sitting there, but
you know what? That's the only way to enjoy that.
that is the way we do it down the shore.
That is. Well, that is awesome. Well, I'm not going to hold you up any longer because you are going to a fabulous Christmas party. So I hope you enjoy yourself. And I appreciate you jumping on and talking with me and our listeners. And I appreciate you and your fabulousness.
Oh, thank you. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, find me on LinkedIn and tell me that they heard me here with you so that I know where they come from. And it was really great talking with you. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I learned so much. I learned so much, not only about technology, but also about fishing.
Probably too much information. No,
I love it. It's fun to see how we're so smart and we're doing all of these great things in technology, but yet we also have our fun side.
We have to. I mean, there's nothing, like baiting a hook and then trying to get a hook out and put it back in the water and, full of scales and muck, or shark fishing at chum. Anybody who's ever done it understands what chum is. It's not clean. You're not going to look pretty.
Isn't it blood and guts?
Actually, we'll leave, yeah, you're in the right space, but I won't, I'll leave it there. It just is, it can be a lot of fun. And I grew, I don't mind getting my hands dirty, obviously. If I'm willing to drive a truck, I've got no problem with fishing.
There you go. Yes. Oh my God, the truck. I totally forgot. I was so distracted by the fishing. Forgot the awesome truck. I would be taking out people right and left.
No,
So
you get good at it. Trust me. It's like anything else, right? 10,000 hours, practice, practice, practice.
that is true. That is true. Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy your party tonight.
Thank you.
And cheer to the whales to us.
Yes.
There's nothing in Ohio. We don't have whales in Ohio.
That you just have to come east. Come east. You have beautiful lakes. Don't kid yourself. I've seen the lakes there. You've got some beautiful lakes.
We have some water, just not that water.
Yes, you do have good water though.
So
It's a great state.
oh well, thank you.